Welcome to TradeTheMBA.com. This is John. This reports for the 24th of July, and no surprise over the weekend, from Friday at least, we started off really way up there and it couldn't hold it, and that was pretty clear given what we were seeing. Just not a whole lot of short activity. Relevant detail, DOC steel moving above the negative 13.5. That should be enough to give a little bit more strength, at least to hold up into any additional selling, while the magenta from an MBI reading here resets, and then you can see we do get a crossover of short cyan crossing above green, not quite above the red, and of course red still really elevated up there. I mean, we're still over 5.78, but before we peaked out 6.5-ish range, which is pretty up there. So all in all, I think this has been pretty consistent with what we expected. We expected continued softness within there, but still more than enough to hold support. NQ's been a little bit weaker, and the readings on it were significantly lower. Excuse me, a little bit of a sneeze. We have filled back pretty close to the beginning of the positive extreme on NASDAQ standpoint. So if we do get any kind of rally coming from the NASDAQ, that would be enough to lift the S&P. Not really seeing a strong move on it. We do have steel, though, rising above the negative 13.5. That might be enough to give it support. And, of course, the reset of the shakeout just allows for a renewed move. From a Treasury standpoint, no real action there after the major exuberance to think that the Fed is somehow going to change course. They're not, because of this. And, if oil had broken down and kind of faded below that 60 range, I think that, there could have been an argument made that the Fed might take it easy because there really would be less of an impetus. But maintaining itself here, we'll see what happens from the wage front. But unless there's some kind of dramatic change in unemployment and things like that, it doesn't seem like there's going to be all that much of a move. From a euro standpoint, actually was even just a few moments ago, but a little bit of a decline. Yeah, it's way out of control for where it is, but needless to say, they're doing fine, propping up those peripherals. From a gold standpoint, not a whole lot of activity unless we see that oil continue to rise, which would then, I think, create an outside move to the upside for gold if that continues to take place, because it'll be obviously what the outcome is going to be from that. From a Bitcoin standpoint, again, not a whole lot of anything. In fact, still holding up quite nicely given the fact that it's been under fairly decent sell configurations. It was this rising gold that had maintained it, but now that we've had the rising white there, we know that a breakdown of that usually begins some kind of a little bit of sell-off, at least something a little bit more dramatic. So keep an eye out for that one. And ETH, likewise, similar readings and pretty strong rejection with the DOC of cyan to green. Usually projects a little bit more softness, so we'll see if it plays out that way. From an intraday standpoint, it was pretty much of nothing. Started off pretty strong, but it was just a head fake and pretty much went nowhere for the day. And looking at the pre-market right now, a little bit of a rally, European-wise, coming off of the late day sell from Friday. Really isn't a whole lot of anything, so market's just sort of absorbing and trying to figure out where things are going and whether or not some of the political damage that's being taken place for the Biden administration, whether or not that's going to start having any legs. And if that starts to shift in anyone's mind, that could throw things into a little bit more of an interesting spin. I don't know how much major impact it will have because, for the most part, the market is just looking to the Fed and that politics not playing as big a role. So that's the long and the short of it. As always, though, trade well. Talk to you later.